We all talk about the cloud, right? It sounds so ethereal, weightless, invisible, just floating up there somewhere. But what if I told you that's not the whole story? The truth is, the cloud is very much on the ground. It has a physical address, a huge appetite for power, and it's kicking up a massive conflict right here on Earth.
Just think about your day so far. Maybe you tapped an icon on your phone, booked a flight for a trip, or streamed a movie last night. It all just works, right? It feels seamless, almost like magic. But all of those things, every single one, shares a very physical, very real secret.
Yeah, that magic, it doesn't actually happen in the sky. It's not in some wispy digital cloud. Nope. Every single one of those clicks, taps, and streams happens inside a physical box. A box that's inside a very real building, sitting on a very specific piece of land.
So, let's get into it. The cloud is very much on Earth, and it turns out one specific corner of the planet is, well, way more important for our digital lives than pretty much anywhere else.
And here it is. Welcome to Northern Virginia. Now, it might not have the same flashy reputation as Silicon Valley, but make no mistake, this is the red-hot center of the data world. We're talking about the engine room of the entire internet, and it's right here, kind of hidden away in the Virginia countryside.
Just let that sink in for a second. A whopping 13% of all data centers on the entire planet are crammed right here. That is an insane concentration of infrastructure, and it's exactly why this place has become ground zero for a huge brewing conflict.
Right, so now we're getting to the heart of it, Virginia's data center dilemma. Because all that concentration has created this massive clash, pitting the tech industry's absolutely insatiable demand for more against the everyday lives of the people who actually live there.
And listen to this quote from a resident. It really says it all. For so many people there, this wasn't some gradual change. The arrival of these giant industrial buildings felt like a sudden, jarring shock to their whole community.
And the impact isn't abstract, it's very, very real. I want you to just imagine a constant, loud humming noise from these huge cooling units, 24/7. The trees that used to block out sound? Gone. Families who've been there for generations are now seriously thinking about moving. We're not talking about server farms out in the middle of nowhere. These are massive industrial warehouses going up right next to people's homes, right next to schools.
So you can see the predicament for local politicians, right? It's an incredibly tough spot. On the one hand, hey, you've got all this tax money pouring in, which is great for schools. But on the other hand, you're industrializing beautiful historic land, you're gobbling up land that could be used for housing, and you're putting a massive strain on the local power grid. It's this classic, really difficult trade-off.
Okay, so to really get a handle on that strain on the power grid, we've got to go inside. Let's look past the controversy for a second and check out the actual machinery that's powering our digital world.
Okay, so we're inside just one data hall now, just one of these giant rooms. The power it's pulling constantly is 4 megawatts. And remember, a typical facility can have 10 or even more of these halls. Now, 4 megawatts sounds like a lot, but what does that number actually mean?
Well, here's what it means. That one room, just one hall full of servers, sucks up enough electricity to power up the 12,000 homes. A small town's worth of power for one room. And that's just one room in one of the thousands of these data centers. So this is already a huge issue. But now, something's come along to pour gasoline on the fire.
And that something is AI, the great accelerator. You know it. The arrival of generative AI has completely, and I mean completely, changed the game. It's taking this regional power struggle we've been talking about and blowing it up into a full-blown global energy crisis.
Just look at the timeline here. It's so clear. Before ChatGPT, sure, demand for data centers was growing. It was strong, steady. We were all using more tech. Made sense. But after ChatGPT launched, the demand didn't just grow, it absolutely exploded. It went vertical. It was a massive sudden spike that caught pretty much everyone, especially the power companies, completely off guard.
So why? Why is AI so ridiculously power hungry? Well, it really just comes down to the hardware, the nuts and bolts. See, the traditional cloud, the stuff we used to do, mostly runs on CPUs, like the main processor in your computer. But AI, that needs GPUs. These are super specialized chips that are designed to do a zillion calculations all at the same time. And the bottom line is, a server rack built for AI can guzzle 5 to 10 times more power than a standard one. That's a huge multiplier.
And it's that multiplier, that 5 to 10x factor, that takes this problem from Northern Virginia and scales it up to the entire planet. This isn't just a local issue anymore. We are staring down the barrel of a global power problem, and it's all being driven by our demand for this new, smarter technology.
Let's bring this back to Virginia for a second. If we apply that AI-driven demand to what's happening there, the numbers just get, well, they get astronomical. Right now, all those data centers use about 5 gigawatts of power, but the projects that are already in the pipeline, they're going to need an additional 40 gigawatts. That's not a small jump. That's an 8-fold increase. The local power company has basically thrown up its hands and said they don't know how they're going to supply all that.
Okay, so to even talk about the global picture, we need a new, much bigger unit of measurement. Forget megawatts and gigawatts. We're talking about the terawatt hour, or TWH. A TWH is 1 trillion watts of power being used for 1 hour. Just try to wrap your head around that scale for a second.
All right, got it? Because by 2034, that's only a decade away, the projections show that data centers around the world will be eating up 2,900 terawatt hours of energy every single year. It's one of those numbers that's just so big, it's kind of hard to even process on its own.
That is, until you put it into perspective. Get this, 2,900 terawatt hours is almost double the total amount of energy used by the entire country of India in a year. India, a country with 1.4 billion people. We are talking about a demand for electricity that is truly world-altering. And this all leads to a really uncomfortable reality, a kind of chain reaction. Step 1, AI development is getting faster and faster. Step 2, that AI needs truly unprecedented amounts of power. Step 3, the world just doesn't have enough clean energy online right now to meet this sudden massive demand. So what's the unavoidable short-term conclusion? It means the big race to build AI is very likely going to be fueled by burning more fossil fuels. And that could be a huge setback for climate goals.
So here we are. We have more power at our fingertips than at any other time in human history. It's absolutely incredible. But it leaves us with a really big question, one we all have to think about. Have we really considered the price of all this power? I'm not just talking about the costs on an electricity bill, but the price and the noise in our neighborhoods, the land we build on, and the very energy that fuels our planet.